Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, is there any film or TV that would be improved by being played at 1.5 times speed? I mean, probably like some reality TV or like really long movies like 127 hours, which would become 84.6 hours. I mean, I've got a list of movies that if you went and saw Cleopatra, 5 hours, 20 minutes, you watch it at 1.5 speed. That's 3 hours, 33 minutes. That's like almost 2 hours of your life you're saving by watching it at double speed, at 1.5 speed. Gone with the Wind, 3 hours, 58 minutes, down to 2 hours, 38 minutes.
Some would say it's Gone with the Wind with that sort of speed.
The upcoming Irishman, 3 hours, 30 minutes, down to 2 hours, 20. And best of all, if you wanted to watch all of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, extended edition, normally 11 hours, 23 minutes, you could cut that down to 7 hours, 35 minutes. Much more manageable. So I'm the host of this media podcast, Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode, Dylan Blight.
I don't know why you did that. Hello.
I'm just saying, there could be merit in this idea.
No.
And joining us for the first time since episode 21, Ciaran Marchant.
Is this that Star Wars show? Why isn't Dylan pretending to be the Jedi Master?
No, that isn't.
No,
what's
up?
This is a proper.
Oh, it's a proper movie show. I get it. 21. It's been 21. It's now what, like episode 46? Like that's like I waited
it's
to
24
double
episodes.
Myself and I held off. How quickly could we listen to the 24 episodes if we listen to them at 1.5 times speed?
Considering this show's fortnightly, that means it's like a year, right?
Pretty close.
Yeah, it's been about a year then.
Yeah,
it's the last time Nick was like, "Nah, I'm not doing this." He takes his sabbatical each time.
You came in when Dylan couldn't show up.
Oh, that's right. It was Dylan last time. I didn't have to put up with that.
Yes.
Right.
Fun fact.
Yep.
That episode is the most viewed one of these episodes on YouTube.
Is it really?
Yep. For reasons.
For all the wrong reasons.
Time for a ringer here, boys. Let's get another high 6 viewers.
It was the shot caller episode.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it was the shot caller episode. I remember watching that masterpiece.
Yeah, but for
I'd like
those
to say,
those who don't know,
I'd like to say quickly that
people keep going. People keep going to watch that YouTube video because they think it's the full movie of Shot Caller.
Because it's that long.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really good. Yes, Ciaran.
I would like to say I stifled my laughter for all of Ashley's terrible 1.5 speeds, especially the 127 hours. That was so good.
Yeah, that was a pretty great joke. And I want to say I do not. That was just for comedic value. I don't promote this idea of 1.5 speed. I mean, it could be a cool thing for like, I don't know, nature documentaries or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's some purpose. I mean, Dylan, you listen to everything at like 5 times speed, so you can get used to it.
I would never watch a movie or TV show at a faster speed. It defeats the artistic integrity.
Yeah.
What if the movie was designed to be watched at 5 times speed?
You'd be watching it 10 times
what
speed.
If you?
Then, I guess.
What if you watch Baywatch? Then all the slow-mo walking scenes would be in normal speed.
But that's a legit example of it's meant to be slow. And it's like if a character dialogue, the actor makes the choice to purposely leave like a pause in time for emotional reasons, and then it's defeated because you're speeding it up. It's literally defeating the point. That's why.
What if you've seen it before?
There's literally. I guess then sure if that's what you want to do.
It's like all these people who rewatch The Office like a gazillion times. Get through it a bit quicker.
Yeah, I guess.
So you can start rewatching it.
Me listening to podcasts at faster speeds is not the same as movies. Because this is just people talking.
I mean, you should listen to this at the regular speed.
No, fuck that. That's
going to record.
The reason I have to listen to shit faster is because everyone speaks so much slower than I do.
That's
if
true.
If y'all just spoke
that is 100%
faster,
accurate.
Yeah, if everyone just spoke like faster like I do, then I wouldn't have so many problems. I listen to podcasts from people that just take you forever to say something. It's better.
Well, you definitely need to listen to this episode of Fast Speed because it's a big one. We'll be talking about everything in our watch history. We'll be covering some film news. And then we'll talk about the movie we ended up watching, which this week was The Pagemaster. Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's jump straight into it. The big movie release of the last couple of weeks. Terminator Dark Fate. The fourth time they've tried to create a sequel to Terminator 2. Not including the much superior Sarah Connor Chronicles, which is a mouthful, and also the best thing post Terminator 2 that they've done. Dylan, you watched Terminator Dark Fate. How do you feel? Is it the best third? Is it the best third film they've done so far?
It's the third best Terminator movie, and that is a compliment, I think, considering how many sequels have failed. The movie's got heaps of problems, you know. It's the thing is that no movie is ever going to live up to T2, because T2 is considered by most people to be one of the greatest action movies of all time. I would consider Terminator 1 to be one of the most unique and original slasher movies of all time, because Terminator 1's basically a horror movie and Terminator 2 is an action movie. Like, they're completely different genre-wise. And I think in their own genres, they were like top of class for their period. And I still think they're fun to watch today. Terminator Dark Fate just tries to be Terminator 2, but with more CGI and amped up things and whatever else. Without spoiling the plot, because it's literally impossible to like kind of talk about it without spoiling like the opening of the movie. And the opening of the movie is like one of the best scenes, but also one of the most hated I've seen people online talking about. But at the same time, it really just like the movie opens with a bang, and you're like, oh shit, okay, this is the way we're taking it. That's what we're doing here. But getting past that, and then you get into the story, and it's basically the same sort of thing. You've got two Terminators, a Terminator, and someone you're not sure is the Terminator, because they're saying they're not, but you're like, are they or aren't they? I don't know. They're saying they're human, which is Mackenzie Davis's character. But I think it's left purposely, made the audience try and be like, are they? I'm not sure. Like, they say they're not, but I don't know. And then, so for the majority of the movie is Mackenzie Davis saves, what's her name? Natalia Reyes' character, Danny Ramos. And she is the golden egg of this movie that everyone has to save for whatever reason, or the bad guy Terminator is trying to kill for whatever reason. Can't say why because of spoilers. Obviously, but usual type of fare. Linda Hamilton shows up, I'd say like 20 minutes into the movie-ish, 15, 20 minutes into, like, it's not super early, but it's semi-early because it's like 2 hours or whatever. And she makes an entrance, and then she's, they're your main characters. So this movie is, and this is the reason I also think a lot of it's been getting semi-bad user reviews, is because it is a trio of female characters. That is the movie. And I think that attracts bad press from a certain segment of the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you put the three girls and they're going to go on. So yeah, it's Sarah Connor, Grace Mackenzie Davis's character, and then Danny Ramos. And it's like they're all teaming up to save her for whatever reason. Arnold Schwarzenegger does show up. That's not a spoiler to say because he's on the fucking poster and he's in the trailers. And when he does show up, they do something unique and cool with him. And I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is like really good in this movie. I like the way they actually use his character in this, and himself and Linda Hamilton actually have some really good scenes that actually have like emotional depth and like backing to their weight to what is actually happening. And I think that's one of the reasons this movie stands above the other Terminator ones, is because they were all just like trying to replicate the action but could never like hit any of like the emotional stuff that T2 and T1 actually have. And this movie never hits that exact high, but they're at least trying and know what they're trying to do with it. A little bit too much CGI towards the end of the movie for my liking. They take like T2's like literally the biggest action scenes are like driving a truck across the highway, you know what I mean? Like the end is like a chopper chasing there. Like they weren't too epic. This one's like, and this is in the trailer, this one's like one of the final action scenes is taking place in a plane in the sky that's exploding at the same time and whatever else. And I was like, I'm not solid, but there's emotional backing to the scene because cool stuff is happening, but at the same time I didn't like the way the action was shot personally. But as far as the Terminator movie goes, I was invested. I enjoyed the main trio. I enjoyed having those three characters interact for the majority of the movie. And I would say they just leave it alone after this one, to be honest. I feel like they should just be like, after trying 4 times, we've hit one that's actually okay. Stop. Just leave it. Like this, just end it. This one, just let it be now. If I had to give it a score, I think I'd probably give it like a 6.5 to a 7. I'm not sure, like probably around there, 6.5-ish to a 7-ish.
Yeah,
I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it as well. I enjoyed most of it. I feel like it was really good until towards the end when they shot like half the rest of the movie into like pitch black, which I found annoying. Obviously, I don't know whether it was just the cinema didn't light up the reel properly, but it was really, really dark and a bit of a struggle to keep track of everything. I think I enjoyed the cast of characters. Obviously, that reveal that they do. Part of the way. The very start of the movie is freaking awesome. Some of the best CG work, like effects work.
Some of the best CGI I've seen, and also some of the worst in one scene. I can't say without spoiling, but I'll say that I was like, wow, that is super impressive. And then right as my brain was thinking, wow, that's super impressive, I went, wow, that looks terrible for something else. Okay. It was literally
I must have not noticed that
worlds.
because I was focused on the freaking incredible.
I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say. I'm saying the first thing you see, I was like, oh my God, that looks fucking great. The second thing you see, I was like, that looks terrible.
We'll discuss this later.
If you can put together what I'm saying.
Yeah, I enjoyed but the reveal of the why they're after them.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was a bit drawn out.
Why the girls got to be protected.
Yeah,
like
that was drawn out, and
like
I kind of felt like they should have just hit it right at the start instead of making it like this moment later on.
Yes. That does make sense, I think. Like, for what happens.
Yeah, within the context. I really thought Linda Hamilton brought it. I thought she was like the standout. Well, Mackenzie Davis is like a beast in this movie, so to be fair. But Linda Hamilton, I feel like, has the best character in the film, which makes sense because she's played this like 3 times now. So,
well, this is my thing going in. I was like, Linda Hamilton, I want to see kick-ass, and Mackenzie Davis, I want to see kick-ass, because Linda Hamilton's amazing in T2, and I was a big fan of Mackenzie Davis before she got announced for this. So straight away, like, I walk out of the movie pretty happy on what I wanted from it, because those two kick ass.
Yeah. My issue is with the new Terminator. I just feel like every single film since T2, they've tried to up the ante. And I think it's like, how the hell are they surviving? This is an unkillable thing. It doesn't make sense.
Is there a spoiler to say what he can do? Like the full.
I don't know if they show like.
I think they show some of it in the trailer. So in case you don't know, this new Terminator is kind of like the T2 Terminator, where like it liquefies, but like even more so, like it can really like kind of liquefy. And also it has another Terminator that can split out of it, like a skeleton Terminator. So it's basically 2 Terminators that they're dealing with.
Yes.
And it can't die.
It can't die. Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, it's like, why? There's a certain level of disbelief you have to suspend. Especially, they also do some future stuff, and like those Terminators, they should just murder everybody. I think it's interesting what they did with the lore. They kind of like scrapped a lot of things, and again, I really enjoyed how they integrated Arnold Schwarzenegger into this one. So, I feel like there definitely won't be another film because apparently it sort of didn't meet expectations.
Hasn't gone great.
So whether they like they'll risk doing another one, but maybe this will be the end of it. Terminator's over.
I seriously don't think new generations have an attachment to the Terminator franchise.
No.
It hasn't been carried forward like Star Wars has, for example.
No, it's been rebooted so many times that none of it matters.
Yeah.
But I guess they had success obviously with Halloween recently and some other things that have like cut movies out of the canon. So I could see how they thought this was going to be a success,
but also with Halloween, you got to remember that for that to be successful, its budget it had to meet was a lot lower than the budget.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Terminator Dark Fate. Not the greatest title either, but go watch Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles instead, in my opinion, which is great, even though it ends on a cliffhanger. Then there was another big debuting TV series this past week after getting Watchmen last fortnight. We got His Dark Materials, the new series based on the Philip Pullman books, set in a fantasy world with demons, like animal things that people souls go into or something. They don't explore a hell of a lot in this first episode. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the world that they set up. I thought, like, the CGI is not incredible, but it's serviceable. It does the job. I really liked Daphne Keane. I was thrown off straight away because she has an English accent and sounds nothing like what she was like in Logan. But apparently she's like Spanish British. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm excited to see the rest of the world. It's very much a setup episode of getting her away from this college, which is lived in as an orphan. James McAvoy plays like an uncle who comes in from the north, like Game of Thrones, and they've set up what's her name, Ruth Wilson, as like the person that's going to be sort of running with Daphne Keene's character Lyra for the rest of this.
For people that don't know, this if you've seen The Golden Compass, this is the same book.
This is the same book as The Golden Compass, but
I thought it was just because there is, in the trailers I've seen for this, there is a polar bear heavily involved with this, and I was like, this looks like Golden Compass. Yeah. So is it like a reboot of Golden Compass then? Like,
it's a new adaptation. Yeah,
it's a new try at the same book series.
Okay, cool. Basically. All right, fair enough.
I did not like The Golden Compass. I found it boring and I thought it was a pretty bad movie. I tried reading the original book series at one stage and I found them very hard to, when I was in like primary school or whatever it was, and I think they were way above my reading level at the time because I just found it all way too confusing to keep up with. And I think that's fair given everything. Even watching the first episode of this, it's like there's so much happening and like so many lore things that you're suddenly trying to keep up with. It's like so hard to keep track of. And I would say this is the first time I'm interested in this world. As I just said, I didn't like the books the first time I tried. I didn't like The Golden Compass. Watching this though, I think they did a lot better job, and I think this material is going to be a lot better suited for TV, where they have more time to not rush you with information. Even though the first episode kind of feels like it's rushing with information, obviously to set things up, but at the same time, you're going to have it a lot more spread out and whatever else. But it's like, the show starts as like there's a baby being delivered by James McAvoy. It's like fucking Harry Potter, and then
like in waist deep
ahead
water.
Time. Well, yeah, waist deep water, and like giving a code to someone, and then it skips ahead, and then she's like the little girl running around and whatever else, and James McAvoy is off talking about dust, like a little bit of dust. Do you have a little bit of dust? Oh, it's dust everywhere. And then the little girl at the end, it's like, oh, off on an adventure. Spoilers, not spoilers. Come on. Off on an adventure you go to the bigger world, and next episode we'll meet the polar bear, because the polar bear is the soul creature for Lin-Manuel Miranda's character. Is how that works out. So, and he's going to be one of the main characters, even though we don't meet him until the second episode, from what I understand.
Later,
I enjoyed it. I think it's next week, from what I picked up on. I really enjoyed this, even though it's a lot to take in. I think the CGI looks good for like the budget and what it's got. I don't think it looks bad. It definitely doesn't look like Marvel $100 million budget though. But I think my favorite thing about this show is that it's a HBO/BBC production, and every single actor is like British and shit like that. Mm-hmm. And it's the way the show's shot, it feels like a BBC show, not a HBO show. Even though it's like it is a HBO show, it definitely feels like it is being shot like a British. It felt like I was watching Doctor Who or something. You know what I mean? Just the way it was being shot, and the way it looked, and where it was being shot, and the actors you're seeing, and all these sorts of things. And I was really enjoying that because, you know, like I feel like I often have to seek out, if all I'm watching is like shows that are on Showtime or, you know, Foxtel or whatever, it's like, oh, the big shows are all American shows. And I'm like, oh, this is like a big budget BBC show. I'm enjoying that. I'm down for a big budget BBC series. So yeah, I'm very keen to watch more. I found a little bit of funny, interesting trivia is that they must have been so happy with how this like performed for them behind the scenes to test audiences. They're currently shooting seasons 2 and 3 back to back before the first episode even aired, before they even knew if it was going to be a success or not. So they must have been pretty
Confident.
confident in how it was going to go. If they're like, and the reason they're shooting seasons 2 and 3 back to back is because apparently the next couple seasons, like they pick up one after another pretty fast. And obviously, what's her name? Daphne Keane.
Yeah.
The girl's going to grow up fast, obviously. So they're shooting the 2 seasons back to back so that she doesn't grow up too fast. And then I think there's like some time skip between 3 and 4. So they're like, we can take a break. But yeah, I found it interesting that they're willing to commit that much money to shooting 2 seasons of semi-high budget TV without even the first episode airing. I suppose HBO's looking for their next Game of Thrones-ish type thing, I guess, but I don't know.
I mean, especially, but it makes sense in this world now where you need a lot of content, new content.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to fill out
especially
that
to fight all the streaming channels these days. So HBO's like, just take the money, film the TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's good names involved behind the scenes and that kind of thing. So it makes sense that they would bank on it doing well. And it's good. Yeah. So, well, yeah, you know. So I watched a couple of Amazon Prime series. I checked out the latest season of Jack Ryan, in which Jack Ryan goes to Venezuela. And I'll tell you what, it does not paint Venezuela in a very good light. So apparently there's been some some pushback from Venezuela because they're pretty much they're not flattering. I really enjoy. I think this is a bit of a step up from the first season. I like John Krasinski gets to do a bit more. He's not so held in the first season. He was sort of held back by like a normal life behind a desk. And with the relationship stuff, this season is just completely invested in this case in Venezuela about his mentor friend ends up getting killed, and he's sort of traveling, trying to find out who was behind it and other conspiracies as to why certain things happening in Venezuela. The second season has Naomi Rapace from Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the original versions. She's not utilized very well, considering the name she carries. I guess she's and being the most prominent female character in the show, arguably, is just like a side character. Doesn't have a lot to do. Shows up, bangs Jim Ryan, and then does some other spy stuff. Betrays him.
Oh, it's James Bond, is what you're telling me.
I mean, no, it's not like it's a bit more lovey-dovey than that. But,
Okay. So it's not just, hey, my name's Bond. Banging, we're banging now.
No, he does a bit more of a courtship.
Banging. Okay.
But yeah, and the other thing is, William Jackson Harper from The Good Place shows up at one point. I'm like, what the fuck? What's Cheaty doing here in this show? So that was something that threw me. But yeah, I think it's very good. Though I will say, don't watch this show while trying to do something else, because there is a lot of they speak Spanish a lot, so you need to read a fair bit amount of subtitles.
How fucking rude! How absolutely rude of them to do that.
I know.
How rude!
Why couldn't they like fake it and everybody speaks English?
Yeah.
And then I also watched Modern Love, the romantic comedy anthology series on Amazon Prime, created by John Carney, whose previous work includes Sing Street and Once. I really enjoyed it. I think it's very good. Obviously, they got some big names involved. They got Anne Hathaway, Tina Fey, Dev Patel, John Gallagher Jr., Sophia Botella. They have Olivia Cooke, Andrew Scott. I think the first 3 episodes are directed by and written by John Carney. Probably 2 of those are my favorites. At least 2 of the top 3. No, and he directed the other favorite one, which is episode 7. So I think the best episodes are the ones done by John Carney. There is an episode directed by Emmy Rossum that is just awkward and weird, involving like a age gap between 2 people.
How big?
Well, she constantly refers to her as... See, the premise is she doesn't have a dad, and she meets somebody and kind of wants him to
Oh,
be
hey, daddy.
her dad. And then, there's mixed messaging. That's kind of, it just feels a bit awkward.
It sounds awkward.
It does. It was a hard one to watch. The first episode's got Kristen Melody from the last season of How I Met Your Mother, who played the mother, which I just really love her from that show. So now I love her in pretty much everything. The episode with Anne Hathaway is pretty impressive. I think it's what might be the best episode. It's that or the 7th episode, which includes Andrew Scott and Olivia Cooke, about a gay couple trying to adopt a adopted child that Olivia Cooke is carrying.
Andrew Scott plays a gay man?
Yes.
My kind of TV show.
Yeah. Why?
Hashtag my Moriarty.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But yeah.
Your brain was like...
Tick, 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 tick. No, because I'm so thinking of him as the hot priest in Fleabag. But yeah.
I just think of him Moriarty.
Yeah. Yeah, really good series. The 8th episode is like a wrap-up episode that sort of ties everything together. You get flashbacks of all the other episodes, so I mean, it's a bit...
Oh, they're actually connected? I thought they were anthology.
It is an anthology, but of the 8th episode makes it... They just get snippets of all the other relationships. Which fits in with the theme of the episode. So, I mean, I'll give it a pass, but yeah. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to a potential season 2, just because, I'm a sucker for the romantic comedies. And John Carney's obviously great. He does good stuff. Dylan, we just had the launch of Apple Plus. No, Apple TV Plus, freaking hell, here in Australia. And you've checked out all the debuting series, at least the pilots. You can check out all his reviews over at explosionnetwork.com. But do you want to give us your overall thoughts on each of them? Let's start off with C.
The first episode's very weird, but I'm probably going to give at least the second episode another go because it has potential. Jason Momoa, aka Aquaman, stars as like kind of this semi-leader, but I think like politically he's not the leader, but he's like just the alpha of this tribe set in a distant future where the show sets up at the start. It gives you a lot of text like this is what happened. This is all these things that happen. And it's like something happens to the human race, some disease or something spreads and it eats away at all our eyesight and kills off a bunch of us. And then the only remaining humans that are left are all blind. And C's set so far in the future where the remaining humans that are on Earth can't even remember where eyesight was a thing. So like if you say to one of them, hey, remember like a million years ago where humans could see, they're like hashtag fake news. Like it's not a thing that they even understand as being part of human history at this point. And they've kind of somewhat not gone back to like full caveman, but obviously because they can't see, it's like obviously a lot of technology just has died away because it's kind of useless. So they're living up in the wilderness somewhere or something. And the first episode basically sees introduced to the clan, and it goes very fast. It's a very fast moving episode. It's like here are these characters. Here's this woman. She's giving birth. This woman is having babies. The babies are not Jason Momoa's, but her and Jason Momoa have recently got married after she showed up to this place like 9 months ago, already pregnant at the time. And he took her in and he fell in love with her. You got to get on with this whole fast. Another clan is approaching this village at this time. Jason Momoa goes out and has a fight scene with them all, with his people, which the fight scene is probably the best part of the episode. It's shot really well and it's pretty cool. And it's like semi-Daredevil, but not like full-on Daredevil. So like they definitely try and say like the human senses have evolved as our eyesight's gone kind of thing. So like they never say that like they can see, like, you know how Daredevil can semi-see, like, with his vision, like, because he hears so well that he can sort of map out super sense shit. It's not that, but, like, they definitely show that, like, when someone swings an axe and it, like, clips a leaf on the ground or something, Jason Momoa can kind of, like, he hears it and is able to dodge it and stuff. And it's quite bloody fight scene, like, people getting beat up and whatever else, but... anyway, they have to retreat at some stage, and then all this other sort of stuff happens along the way, and... at the very end of the episode, when you can tell it's going weird, you finally get introduced to the bad guy, which is like this queen off at who's in charge of these people who are after Jason Momoa's characters. And the first scene you see with her is literally her sitting on a chair, masturbating while praying. And that's how you introduced to her character. And of course, when that comes on, you're like, this is a very weird scene. She's literally like, dear Lord, how do you, like, I'm like, that's a very weird thing that I'm watching right now. I don't know why it was happening. It's quite odd to watch. But yeah, and the whole setup for the series is basically going to be that she's trying to track down Jason Momoa's like clan and stuff, particularly the babies that the woman ends up giving birth to, because, and this isn't a spoiler because they show it in the trailer, those twin babies have the ability to see. They, as the end of the episode shows, they're like, the babies are staring off and their pupils are shown tracking a raven.
But how do they know they can see?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a spoiler to say how she knows, and it's to do with the father. Like, but that's like spoilerish, I guess. I don't want to go too far into like saying everything. But she why she knows makes sense, and it's to do with the father. But Jason Momoa doesn't currently know. But I guess in the second episode, from what I gather, they actually skip ahead like 10 years. Like, so the first episode's like here, and then the second episode I think skips ahead like 10 years later, so the kids are a lot older. And I guess at some stage, like, the kids will have to tell him, you know what I mean? Like, they'll pick up on the fact that the kids are seeing eventually, you know? I don't know. But yeah, it was a very weird pilot episode. It's like, this is cool, this isn't cool, this is weird, like, it's very fast paced, and some stuff was shot weird or whatever else, but it's very high budget. That's one thing you can tell. With all, I'm going to say this now, for all of these Apple shows, all of these Apple shows have fucking money behind them. They look good, and they have big actors and the big choreography fight scenes and this and whatever else. It's like Apple is just like, take all of the fucking money for literally all of these shows. What do you want to hear about next?
Tell me about the morning show. I guess the flagship show? Arguably.
Yeah, I'd say it's a flagship. It's the one they've had.
It's kind
of
weird for a streaming service to do a show about network television.
Well, yeah, I guess. This is their flagship because of who's in it, is the thing. So this stars Steve Carell and Jennifer Aniston, which is the big card, I think, because it's Jennifer Aniston's return to quote unquote TV, I guess, considering it's a streaming thing. So it's not network, but it's
what's Reese Witherspoon? Just chopped liver?
Well, no, I'm just saying those two are the main characters, and then you've got Reese Witherspoon, who's also in it as like the next in line kind of thing, as well as like Mark Duplass and some of the people, including Billy Crudup, who's probably the best person in this episode. But then also other people in this episode, Javina Kavana, like who voiced like Battlefront and all that sort of stuff, True Blood and shit. She's also in it. Like, there's a lot of people in this. But Jennifer Aniston's kind of the main thing. But the setup for this show is it's about the Me Too movement, which is a weird thing to tackle, obviously, as your flagship show. Like, streaming service, come watch a show that's about the Me Too movement. Like, that's very weird. But the setup is that Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell's characters are the most popular morning show hosts in America. And this pilot episode basically tracks what happens the morning of him getting fired. Like, he wakes up, gets a phone call. You're fired. This report's gone out in the New York Times outing you. A bunch of women have accused you of like sexually, whatever it is. I can't remember the exact wording of it. So then the show tracks like Jennifer Aniston getting to work her character, and then she spits it. She's upset. Like, she has to do a live thing and like get on there and say, we apologize to all the women. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't know. I thought he was a friend. You know, all this sort of stuff. Meanwhile, at the same time, you're kind of tracking this story of Reese Witherspoon's character, who's like off in a different state. And she attends this like rally at some coal mine or something along the lines. I can't remember exactly. A coal mine or something. And she gets caught and posts on YouTube when someone bumps over a cameraman, and she like grabs them by the throat basically and spits it and tells them that they're a fucking asshole and like they're destroying the planet and all this sort of shit. So the show's like tackling heaps of themes, but the pilot never really seems like it's gonna. It just seems like it's going to tackle them, but not actually have anything to say about them. But I don't know if the whole season eventually gets anywhere. Like, it's a very weird thing to set up this whole episode with the Me Too thing. But then it never feels like they're fully committed to saying like Steve Carell's character is a bad person. but they never paint him in a particularly positive light in the episode. Like this whole, every time you see Steve Carell in the show, he's literally just yelling. Like picture from Anchorman, you know, where like every loud noises are happening. Like picture that, but just like kind of more angry. And that's Steve Carell in this movie. Like one of his scenes, he literally like picks up and beats the shit out of his TV with a fucking fire pickaxe, and everyone around him's just kind of like watching like what was, because he's like so pissed off. It was a decent pilot. I wouldn't say it blew my heels off. It feels like it's trying very hard to be Aaron Sorkin's The Newsroom, but not written as well or acted as well even. But it definitely feels like it wants to have that smart, choppy, very smart sounding dialogue and intellect coming through, but it just doesn't.
Okay.
What's the third?
For All Mankind.
For All Mankind is alternate future. Imagine a world where Russia beat America to the moon. And that's how the show starts. And I'm going to be honest, if you're listening to this, I would say I'm sort of spoiling it, but I'm not, because it's obviously, that is in the trailer. But I never watched the trailer for this show, and I turned it on, and the show literally starts with the moon landing. I'm like, oh, like, because I could tell from the pitch it was about space. And I start the show, I'm like, okay, space show, sure, let's go. And the show starts, it's like the moon landing. I'm like, oh, fuck, I've seen so many things about the moon landing lately. I'm just like, I'm not interested in this. And I wasn't really intrigued. And then suddenly as the moon landing's happening, the dude puts down the pole. It's like it's the Russian flag, and he starts speaking Russian. I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. Like, what is going on here? So the show basically tackles like what if scenario, Russia gets to the moon first. What does America do? America still tries to go to the moon, and still tries, semi-successfully does achieve that, but not without some problems along the way. And then they also kind of sort of tackle like I would say the redneckness of it, like very much like, oh, those fucking commie bastards, you know, that sort of thing. Like there's a lot of that in the show, that sort of language and stuff happening. And then like the political aspect of it, of like them trying to cancel the president trying to cancel NASA program because he didn't win the race. And it's like, well, the science of it isn't important. It was all about just simply beating Russia. That was the important aspect of the moon race. The first episode was okay. I wouldn't say it was great either. It was simply okay. I think that's the 3 out of 4 of these shows are okay. If we go to the next one, is my favorite, which is Dickinson, which stars Haley Steinfeld. Is it Steinfeld or Steinfeld? It's Feld, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Steinfeld. From Bumblebee, I suppose, is her most popular movie at this point in time. And she plays Emily Dickinson, who, in case you don't know, was a poet in the 1800s that wasn't famous at the time, but became famous post-mortem when her poems were released after her death. And this show is the most fun on Apple TV thing, and I very much wanted to binge it all, but I was like, I need to watch the pilots so I can talk about them on this show, because it's those other shows, Morning Show and C and For All People, For All whatever it's called. They have the first 3 episodes up, and then they're a week by week show, so that they didn't copy the Netflix module completely. Whereas Dickinson, for whatever reason, literally has all 10 episodes up, and these episodes are only half-hour TV shows, whereas all the other ones are 45 minutes. This one, Dickinson, is I would call it a dark comedy, also a very weird comedy. Like Emily's literally someone who likes to sit in her room all day in the 1800s period where it's set, and she likes writing up poetry and whatever else, and they explore like the time period where she goes downstairs and her mum's like, oh, I've got another suitor on the way to see you, and Emily's like literally like lays back on the couch like all improper like mum, I don't want to see anyone. But then the show gets really weird where she's like starts daydreaming about seeing death in a carriage with a horse, like off to the side. And you see that like early in the show and you're like, that's a bit weird. But then like later in the episode when she has a fight with her father, because spoilers for the first episode, the most emotional scene in the episode is where she announces to her family at family dinner that she's having one of her poems actually published in a newspaper. And then her father spits it because he literally says nearly verbatim that women shouldn't be seeking aspirations of that kind. You know, like that's improper. Women should just stick to cleaning and, you know, these sorts of things, get married and shut the fuck up. And then when she kind of spits that, she kind of runs outside, and then you have this whole scene that plays out in her mind, I guess, where she gets into the horse and carriage that's Death, and Death is played by Wiz Khalifa, and he's like sitting in there, sitting in this horse and carriage, like smoking a blunt. And then there's a whole scene where those two have those two converse for some time. But it's a really weird show because it's like very funny. I laughed out loud several times. It's very weird, like weird humor. Like it's set during the 1800s. Like everyone looks like they're from the 1800s, like costume wise and these sorts of things. But all of the characters speak like it's set in like 2019. If you know what I mean, like they're not trying to copy. They're not trying to actually speak like it's the period. And then also the music they use in the show is completely like in the first episode alone. They have Billie Eilish play and someone else I mentioned in my review too. Fucking some rap song plays as well. So it's very like if you can't handle watching something that's like complete opposite ends, where it's like it looks like a period piece, they're in costumes from a period piece, but they're not talking like they're from period piece, and the jokes definitely aren't from their period piece. The jokes are like a modern day this sort of show. It's very quite odd. It's a very unique show, and I'm very keen to watch more. Also, and Haley Steinfeld basically is made for this role. Like it's pitch perfect for her and what she should be playing. Got him.
She was in Pitch Perfect.
Pitch Perfect free. Everyone, you get it? Yeah, bingo.
Yeah. So based on these few shows, how are you feeling about Apple TV Plus? Is it, if you didn't have a free year of subscription, would you be paying for it?
Probably not straight away because it's like there's like so much other shit happening. But like if I watch one episode of the morning show, I'm definitely keen to watch more. C, I could hit or give, but it's like one of those ones that's like if I'm paying, I'll probably check out at least one more. I loved Dickinson, but it's like, would I pay to watch Dickinson solely? I don't know. Like, would I wait until, you know what I mean? It's like sort of weird thing. But at the same time, they have more stuff coming next month, including like the M. Night Shyamalan series, which is super intriguing to me. And they're adding all these other things, and the shows are definitely high caliber. It's cheaper. If you're an Apple user, you basically will get a year for free anyway, because any new device you've bought in the last 12 months gives you a year for free. The only negative I have to say is I have no idea what the fuck they were doing to promote it, and I don't know why they don't just let everyone have access to this easier. You know, it'd be like if Amazon Prime, like Prime Video, could only be streamed on Prime Fire Sticks or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, they should just make access to these TV shows easier. They should just already have the app on all your TVs, app on your PlayStation. They should have had all of this ready to go and launch, and they should have been promoting it. The only reason I knew that Apple went live is I saw someone tweet about it, and then half an hour after I saw someone tweet about it, I saw Simon from Apple Slice message me and was like, hey, so you know. I'm like, I just saw, but thanks. Yeah. But other than that, I saw like little to no promotion from Apple about the launch of their streaming service, which I found quite weird, you know?
Yeah, that is weird. All right, let's move on. Ciaran, you haven't talked much. Let's talk about some of the things you've watched.
Okay, so normal TV show. No, I don't do those. No, I wish. I just don't have the time. Oh, I could tell. That's a lie. I watch a lot of anime, is the truth. And I in the last 6 months, I've watched a lot more anime in ways that I've never watched before. Like I've never done before. Like I watch anime that releases weekly, which was not a thing I used to. I used to do a binge anime series where it was just the whole thing was out, or 100 and something episodes were out, so I could just sit there and watch it, and I would never catch up to what was current because it was just so far ahead. But in recent times, I've been watching a lot more animes that are currently being released or weekly, being put out. The two I want to talk about, the one that I know you've watched and has had more talk about it, I'll get to in a second. But I've just finished off watching the first season of Demon Slayer, which is fairly, I wouldn't say it's fairly recent, but it's within, it's new in terms of anime, I guess. And at the minute, there's only 25 episodes out in the first season. And for me, I think it's one of the most interesting newer anime concepts that are currently out. Not for overall because, it has a very traditional anime story about the main character, Tanjiro's family this is all not really spoilers, but gets murdered by demons, and his sister starts turning into a demon. And it's about his story moving through and him learning to become a demon slayer and protecting his sister and trying to find a way to get his sister to turn back to normal. I think other than the basic concept of it, it has the traditional like 7 or 8 like master swordsmen that are leaders in the Slayers, which is very common for what anime does. I think some of the characters are really interesting. They pick some new kind of stereotypes or character types to really bring through the demon designs, and the overall understanding of demons I think is really interesting and unique. It's not for the faint-hearted. I know they're just doing the dub version of Demon Slayer. If you're somebody that watches either or, I would highly recommend watching the sub still, because I've watched the first 2 episodes of the dub and I really dislike the voice acting for it. I don't know if that's just me having a real appreciation for the Japanese voice actors, but I think they do a lot better job of conveying emotion and talking throughout the entire piece, and just their interactions are a lot better. Just from watching the first 2 episodes of the dub, it's really... like, the voice actors just don't seem to mesh very well in their characters. And I think the art style of this, overall, like the basic art style itself is pretty normal. It looks good. It has an interesting way of showing its perspective, but I think the art for how they convey different abilities and different things that characters do is very good. It's very clean, it's very interesting, it's very different. The main character's effects are a lot water-based, and the water looks like, if you think of the water from the video game like Akami, that art style of like Japanese water paintings, it looks like that in the anime. That looks fucking awesome, and it makes me hype every time. So I really recommend people should definitely go watch Demon Slayer. It's leading up to the end of the series, leads up to the first movie that's coming out, and then the second season will follow up quickly after it. So I think it's a great time to jump onto the show and watch it. I think I've seen it getting a lot more notice and hype recently by people who are a bit slower into getting to anime. So I think it's a really good one to watch. The other one I want to talk to you, because I know you've watched it, Ash, or at least watched some of it, is Dr. Stone.
Yes.
I adore Dr. Stone. Like, I didn't know if I would when I start watching it, because the premise is very different when it comes to like animes that I normally watch. Pretty much the basis of it is that everybody in the world gets turned to stone, and 3,000 years later, a couple characters break out of their stone form and start rebuilding the human race. And I love the characters in it. I think the main character, Senku, is just like, he's the right mixture of being a good character but also being a like dick. A dick at the same time. That is so perfect. I love the fact that it uses real science throughout the whole thing.
I love that they treat science like a superpower.
Yeah, they very much treat science like a superpower, and just even like the little montages throughout it where, they're showing, oh, how did he do this? And it's going through all the flashbacks of like the little steps that he took to do something. It's always really fun. I remember laughing at the episode where they learnt how to build a bomb, because like there was the warning that flashes up that's like, no, this is how you really build one. Don't do it. Don't even start. Don't, just stop. I thought, I thought in the last 6-7 episodes, I was like, oh, I don't know where this anime is going anymore. I don't know what's to go. And then it hit a point that I was very surprised with how it turned, and I went, oh, this is getting even better. Like, are you up to date, Ash, with Dr. Stone?
I don't think currently? So. I'm a bit behind. I'm just watched a flashback episode.
Okay, that's not too far then.
That's not too far behind,
like, there's a couple flashback episodes in a row.
Yeah.
That I think change the anime itself in very interesting ways. And it's really fun. It's really great. I really like the characters that they use. I like, an anime is good if it influences you, where, I will now tell people that they're like, oh, you sure you can do that? And it's like, yeah, it's like 100 million%, or 10 million%, I think he says in the anime. That's like, Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, and I really enjoy it. What do you think about Doctor Stone?
Yeah, I think it's just got its hooks in me. I have to watch it I'd be like, I'm watching the dub, just because I've gotten to the habit of like, I can be checking different things, doing things not fully focused, which is a bad habit, but it is what it is. But yeah, I just find it so interesting, the world and the characters and everything. This village that he's sort of seducing, kind of, and
Very
like
much so.
them try to solve all these problems that he knows the answers to, but having to do it in a world where he doesn't have any of the tools or anything that he once had. Like, it's not as easy as it was.
It often doesn't take the obvious choice for solutions in this world. There's some things where you're like, well, this is going to be the obviously how this plays out, and then it doesn't play out. It goes into a different direction, or they do something completely different where they avoid doing the very obvious choices, the stereotypical things, where you're like, oh, this is going to happen to this character, and it doesn't. Like, there's a tournament that happens and you're like, oh, so this is very clearly this character's going to win, because it makes sense for that character to win. I think it also has probably one of my favorite soundtracks for an anime I've seen in a very long time. Like, just the overall, there's like the main piece of music that plays in it. Anytime like it kicks in during an awesome part or a very hype moment in the anime, there's instantly a smile on my face, and I'm instantly enthralled in what's going on in it.
Yeah.
People should definitely watch Doctor Stone.
Watch Doctor Stone. Where are you watching it?
I watch on Crunchyroll.
Okay, well, I've been watching Anime Lab, so...
You use Anime Lab?
Yeah.
I just watch Crunchyroll, and so yeah, it always gets me confused. It's the one thing about streaming services for anime that I'm always super confused about.
Yeah.
Is like the same shit is on different services, and I'm like, huh? Like, My Hero is on both, and there was a couple when My Hero Academia was supposed to start. Anime Lab delayed its start because of the
Rugby World Cup. No, I think it actually got delayed over in Japan because of the Rugby World Cup.
No, but the thing was, right? No, that was this week's episode. The first episode, Anime Lab delayed it because of the hurricane that was going through Japan, and then Crunchyroll didn't. And I was super confused. I was like, okay, sure thing. But yeah, I think it's good. Yeah.
So Just Watch, if you could update your site to include Japan anime streaming services, that would be helpful. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Dylan, last episode we talked about looking for Alaska. You finished watching the season? Did you happy with it?
Not to jump ahead too far, but I'd say it's easily on my short list for my favorite shows of the year. I think the big thing here is, and I mentioned it when I talked about the first episode, last episode, was that I thought the first episode, much like the book, isn't super impressive. You get introduced to it. It's very much like teen characters that seem rather stereotypical, I guess. And then the main girl, Alaska, comes across as your I'm mental blanking on what the word people use for it is, like a pixie character, like, like the pixie
Manic
dream
Pixie
girl
Dream Girl.
character. Yeah, manic pixie dream girl. That's how she comes across. It's not until you get into episode 2 through that like things start to grow. And here's another thing of this, and I mentioned that I might be a little bit biased because, as I said, I read the book years and years and years ago, John Green book. That I was a big fan of, so I already knew what I was in for. But I think this is a testament to the story and also how well that they've done the show. I don't think I've cried as much in anything in quite some time as I did watching that show. And this is coming from someone that knew exactly where the story was going, what story beats they were going to hit and everything. But it's so funny because I remember a certain point in the book. I remember laying in my bed, and like the worst thing about reading and like having a really emotional thing happening and like you're fucking bawling your eyes out is you can't fucking read because your eyes are like, which is what happened when I read the book for the first time. Like the book really, really hit me quite hard when it got to a certain point. And I remember putting the book down at a certain point because I couldn't actually handle participating in reading it anymore because I was just finding it a lot to take in. I got to the exact same point in the TV show. One episode, I can't really give people warning for what it is because it's like a spoiler, but when I got to the exact same thing in episode, even though I knew what was going to happen, I had to stop that episode and I had to finish it in 2 sittings because I was just crying so much. So take that as a plus or a negative. I really don't know what it is. I would say it's a testament to how well they've done bringing these characters to life because I would say that when I talked about the first episode, I was very like, it was okay. Like I wasn't super impressed, but I really, really adore this series. Much like I would say they've improved the book. And that's a very rare thing that you find whenever they adapt books into TV series or movies, of course. They've added scenes that make sense for characters. They've added scenes that improve characters that needed more time in the book. The book isn't very long, it's like 300 words or whatever it is. Like it's a YA novel. It's not the fucking Lord of the Rings, but everything they've added is fantastic. All of the actors are fucking phenomenal, especially when you get towards the end of the series and things are like getting way more emotionally invested and so on. And it's just fantastic how they've just gone, let's adapt this book. Let's not try and stretch it out and like do seasons after seasons just simply because we need money. They're like, here's the book. The story in the book has an A, B, and C, or however you want to look at it, like a middle, start, middle, and end. And they do that in the series, even though they extend stuff. And it's, absolutely fantastic. And it's definitely one of my favorite TV shows of the year. And probably in my top 3 currently, at least. And I really, really would suggest others like it. Others check it out. As long as you hear everything I'm saying about it being quite, if you get attached to what's happening in the story and stuff, it's quite emotional. And if that's not a big turn off for you, then I'd suggest checking it out.
Cool.
It's on Stan. I should mention, by the way. In case you want to know where it is. It's on Stanley.
Okay. Quickly hit a couple other things. I watched the movie Burnt, starring Bradley Cooper, Sienna Miller, and Daniel Bruhl, about a chef who comes back to London looking to restart his career after like sort of blowing it up after drug use and like temperamental behavior. This is kind of the opposite of Chef, like not quality wise, but whereas Chef it was like, I guess
wholesome and heartwarming and good.
Yeah,
it came out the same year as well, I think.
Yeah, this one's a bit more not. While that one's like,
is this the only Chef movie that Bradley Cooper's done? Because I remember seeing a trailer for one about Bradley Cooper being the main chef. Okay, so it is the one I've seen. Okay.
It's the one. It's like if Jon Favreau's character in Chef didn't get fired. He keeps working in that high fancy restaurant the whole entire time. He's sort of rebuilds his team so he can try and get this 3rd Michelin star. I enjoyed it. The food doesn't look super great because it's like they have high fancy food that's like in really tiny portions. I'm like, why would you go spend so much money on these kind of things? But I enjoyed it overall. I think Sienna Miller's really good in it. Obviously, Bradley Cooper's really great. Daniel Bruhl is like really good in this, I think. And Matthew Rhys is really good as like his sort of rival, who sort of work together in his kitchen. And then there is this moment when they this reveal, like when they're trying to win that 3rd or try and get that 3rd Michelin star. Something happens that was like, damn, I didn't see coming. So that was pretty cool. I also watched the League of Legends documentary, League of Legends Origins, that's currently being shown on Netflix.
Excuse me?
What?
Yep. Just trying to get an understanding of it, man. It delves into like the process of them developing the game and then sort of the rise of it to become the juggernaut it is now, and then sort of delving into the build up to the esports world. It's solid. It doesn't go super into like the fundamentals of the game or anything like that, if that's what you're trying to find a leg up or anything. There are a couple of key moments. Obviously, the launch of the game and how it was released. Riot sort of taking over the European arm of the company. I think they were initially distributing through somebody else, which was sort of holding them back. And then another key moment is one of the World League of Legends tournaments where the game kept disconnecting because of internet issues. They sort of delve into that thing and then how they sort of changed it to be in the future where, you know what, we should put it on private service.
Did they include the monumental moment where they launched Oceania servers and my ping went from 200 to 4? No? Okay. That was just me then. That's just a moment.
No, not an important moment in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. Like, little look into League of Legends and obviously it being on Netflix. Lots of people are going to check it out. But, I think it was like a big thing for like the 10th anniversary. But a lot of the footage is like from a couple of years ago, it feels like. So maybe they've been working on it for a while.
So you mean pre-scandals about Crunch and...
Yeah, surprisingly, none of that is mentioned in this documentary.
None of those mentioned or touched on? No?
No.
Oh.
Probably what happens when a documentary is made by the people the documentary is about, you know?
Yeah, kind of. Well, a lot of the footage would have had to been shot by themselves, so... and then the other thing I want to briefly touch on, I've been watching The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star, the new Shane Dawson documentary, which is pretty much just an ad for his palette that he just released over the weekend. It is interesting in regards to, like, it pretty much is a vlog / documentary of the process of them putting this makeup collection together. But it does feel a little bit clickbaity. No, not clickbaity. It feels like super promotional. Like, obviously, the last episode is
it doesn't feel real or anything? Like,
no, it feels like an ad.
Like...
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like an ad at a certain degree. There are moments in it that are like, oh, that's cool. Like, they throw out numbers and they sort of show how the process of how things are done, which I know jack shit about makeup, so that's like an interesting thing to like get an insight into. There are some like vloggy moments, like they go into Jeffree Star's dogs passed away and that kind of thing. They touch on at the start the Shane Dawson scandal from earlier in the year where something he said on a podcast was brought back in which he involved a cat.
Still the cat? Yeah.
Yeah. So they're sort of filming during that time, so him sort of dealing with that and sort of how it just so happened like that was the time he was planning to propose to his fiance. So they show that as well. It is a little clickbaity. In the initial trailer, they showed that they were going to include like the James Charles Tardy or whatever her name is scandal thing that happens in the middle of the year, but it seems like after episode 1 they sort of pivoted in a more business-like direction and sort of cut down on the drama, which I think disappoints some people. But apparently there's going to be 2 more episodes. I don't know when they're going to put them out. Obviously, I think the next one they're planning to do it be about the launch and sort of the reaction to that, so it could be a couple of weeks away, but I don't know.
What platforms is
it's on
Is
YouTube.
Like YouTube Red
it's on just
Series
on plain YouTube. YouTube Red's dead.
Oh,
so,
just normal?
Yeah.
On this
premium
show,
YouTube.
Ciaran, we will talk about anything that's watchable. We are the only podcast in the world that you will hear about Apple TV Plus, anime, and Shane Dawson's YouTube channel.
Yeah. And you know what else you can hear
That's a
about?
big call.
Netflix in the mandatory
There you
Netflix
go.
segment. So I watched The King, the latest film from David Michaud.
Yeah, heard everyone ship at Rob Pattinson.
No, I really enjoyed this. I think it's really good. Timothy Chalamet plays King Henry V. Sean Harris is in it as well. Joel Edgerton. They're the main 3. Ben Mendelsohn's in it for a little while. Robert Pattinson's in for a little while. And Lily Rose Depp is credited, but she's like in like 5-10 minutes, which is weird. To be someone
There's
prominently
a movie,
featured.
I can't remember the name of it, where John Travolta's in it, and he dies in the first 10 minutes, and he's credited as number 1.
Well,
Really?
Yes, I can't remember the name of it, but he literally dies 10 minutes in. So, and he's
Cool.
he's number 1 cast
so,
list.
you know, if you haven't watched the John Travolta movie, it might be that one. But yeah, it follows King Henry V, like right before he becomes king. Funnily enough, his brother is played by the actor who played Tommen in Game of Thrones, which I thought was amusing. But yeah, he's like a drunk and like he doesn't want to be king, and then events sort of shape him to becoming king, and then he sort of gets goaded into a war with France, and you sort of follow that war through to its ending. It got me more interested in sort of the history. I watched like a short Netflix put like a short history of King Henry V in on YouTube, so I checked that out, and that was pretty interesting. And obviously there's this big battle scene, which I'm sure people have seen bits and pieces of, because obviously it is it's of the battle that the Battle of the Bastards is based on, with all the mud and everything. So it is kind of similar to that, but you know, what are you gonna do? But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought Timothée Chalamet was really good, showing a bit more than I've seen of him so far. I think he's probably one of the best. He's obviously one of the best young actors going around at the moment. So yeah, Robert Pattinson looks like he's having a ball in the role. He plays like the French prince. He's got a freaking weird accent, and he seems like he's loving every minute of it.
That's why I want to watch it. I saw a clip. I was like, this is great.
Yeah. Joel Edgerton's really good. And then Sean Harris is the other key pillar of the film. So he's really great as well.
I think this is, do you remember David Michaud? He had like a 3-picture deal with Netflix, I think. So this is the second one. Because the first one was the Brad Pitt one, the war one. Remember?
The War Machine.
Inglourious Bastards.
No. War Machine. Yeah, that was the first one, which I didn't really like. But I suppose I'll watch this one. I always find it weird because every time, like, whenever this gets advertised, I always just think of David Michaud still as like Australian,
King, the Rover.
And you know, yeah, I think of like an Australian indie director. He's on this massive fucking Netflix deal. It's not the same.
No. No, but it's crazy. Obviously, he co-wrote it with Joel Edgerton. It's based on the William Shakespeare plays, but it's not delivered in Shakespearean dialect or whatever, or they don't speak that way. And also, Nash Edgerton did second, whatever it's called. I can't remember.
Second unit.
Second unit directing. So
he shot most of the action scenes. Then is what you're saying.
Well, some of the action scenes. Yeah,
that's usually how it works out.
Yeah. So I also checked out the documentary. Tell Me Who I Am. Have you guys heard about this one?
ASHLEYHOBLEY?
No. So pretty much, it's about these two brothers. When one of them is 18, he's involved in a terrible motorbike accident and ends up with amnesia. Oh, the brothers are also twins. That's also kind of important.
That was relevant, yeah.
Well, that seems like a point. Yep.
Brothers, I mean, yeah. And he gets amnesia and remembers nobody except for his twin brother. And so in the preceding years, his brother helps him like rebuild his life and tells him about their past and that kind of thing. But he's been keeping he was keeping a rather large secret about their family history from him.
Is it a twist, or can you say? We can't know. Is it a twist? Semi-twist for a documentary?
I guess if you it just depends if you want to go in and not know anything.
Would you say it's better to not know the twist?
Depending on your back history.
Is it one of those things where
you could potentially be the subject matter is very dark, and obviously it is not. There's a reason that he decided not to tell him certain things about their family, so it could be triggering to some people if you have suffered some sort of abuse and that kind of thing. So I'll say that much. But then, yeah, obviously it's him. It's told in like 3 acts. The first is the amnesia suffering brother retelling the story of his several years after having the accident. And then it's told from the other brother's side, sort of. The film is pretty much just two interviews, pretty much, with a bit of like reenactments in between, like nothing too fancy or anything. But it's an engaging story, and then them sort of coming together at the end is pretty confronting, and it is satisfying, I guess, in a weird way. Whether it raises the question of whether it's better to know or not know, and whether it's good to lie to people for their own good. But yeah, it's one to watch if you're not too. Yeah. It's an interesting story, and obviously you can look up if you want to find out a bit more about what the subject matter is, but I don't want to say too much. I also checked out Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner, the new David Chang series. There's only 4 episodes, which is a shame. Pretty much it's him with a different celebrity exploring a different city, and they pretty much have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In this series, he goes to Toronto with Seth Rogen. He goes to LA with Lena Waithe. He goes to Morocco with Chrissy Teigen, and then he goes to Vietnam with Kate McKinnon. The food looks great. He's just like a really nice guy with able to get stories out of people. I
these episodes pique my interest.
Yeah,
I don't know who one of these people are. So I'm like, I'd like to watch 3 of these. Seth Rogen sounds great. Chrissy Teigen sounds great. Kate McKinnon sounds great. I don't know who that other person is.
Lena Waithe. She's done a bunch of stuff.
Unless I'm just not recognizing the name.
Yeah.
From isn't Ready Player One?
Kinda. I think yes, she might have been from memory.
Yeah?
Sure.
I just wasn't recognizing.
Let's say yes. But yeah, I really like David Chang. I think he's a great presenter. So, yeah, check that one out if you're into food and like, it's fun. I really like, obviously the Seth Rogen one's good because Seth Rogen and Kate McKinnon. And Chrissy Teigen. He and Chrissy Teigen have a great relationship, and like obviously they're old friends, and they joke about the show being called American Chubs. Yeah. What did you say?
Does she talk about Stardew Valley or
no Switch talk or anything? No, that's a bit disappointing. And then I checked out 2 stand-up specials. First, Jenny Slate's Stage Right, which is solid. Nothing too impressive. It just depends if you like her humor or not. It is cut with like they tried to do like a documentary thing where she's sort of talking to her family about different things. I feel like they didn't commit to either thing enough to make it good. Like you maybe get like fifth, like it feels like half and half, but it doesn't feel like she's explored anything with it just feels like a gimmick kind of to include the documentary aspect rather than actually exploring something. But she's funny. She's a funny woman. She makes some good jokes. And then Seth Meyers' Lobby Baby, which was weird because he's standing up. And if you know anything about Seth Meyers, pretty much his last 2 jobs, he's just been sitting at a desk at Saturday Night Live or at Late Night with Seth Meyers. Yeah, he's clearly a funny dude. He's got a joke that obviously has been getting a fair bit of press, in which you can skip the politics joke about Donald Trump. Like, and an actual button comes up on the screen that lets you skip ahead.
No, really?
Yeah. But it's a joke. It's like it's a setup for like I don't want to give away the joke he uses, but yeah, it's good. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, the other thing, Lobby Baby, he tells the story of how his baby was delivered in a lobby. So yes, that's everything that we're watching. Oh, it's just been a long one, but we've got so much more to get through. Let's jump into some news. Yeah, buckle up. 1.5 speed at least. So Benioff and Weiss are not being part of Star Wars anymore. It was announced, I think, 2 weeks ago now that they pulled out. They obviously signed earlier this year a $250 million production deal with Netflix to do movie and TV shows for them, which sort of, they say, has clashed with their duties on Star Wars and is the reason they've walked away from the deal. There is a bit of conflicting views as to whether they walked away or Kathleen Kennedy forced them out. I did enjoy this one quote from the Variety article in which they said they were not keen. They had sort of turned on Star Wars because of the toxic fandom, which I thought was very funny, considering that they pretty much made Game of Thrones a toxic fandom. But Dylan, how do you feel about Benioff and Weiss not doing Star Wars anymore?
It's very good news. I'm very happy with it. I honestly did not care too much about this. And then at first, and then I think my big turning point where I was like, oh, thank God, was when that whole story came out about them in the first season of Game of Thrones. And I was like, yeah, nah, don't want any of this shit near Star Wars, thank you. And if you don't know what that was, there was basically a story went out, an interview with them where they were like, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. We're just like, whatever, like, blah, we got given money, like this will work, whatever, fucking just throwing shit at walls, seeing if it works. Like they're basically explaining how the first season of Game of Thrones was them on like, we'll learn how to do shit. We'll learn how to make Game of Thrones as we make Game of Thrones. And then they got really lucky and people liked it. And then they somehow fucking fluked their shit. I'm like, yeah, I don't really want that for... I want someone with a vision doing Star Wars, not just we'll make it up as we go along. I think to me it just sounds like they went in and apparently were like, hey, we want to do the origin story of the Jedi or like the Old Republic or some shit like that. And then they had a very one track side, like mind of how they wanted to tell that story. And it sounds like they got told, well, no, like you got to like, this is this way, this is like law reasons this exists already. You know what I mean? Like, and they were like, yeah, but no. Like they wanted to do their own thing, and it sounds like they weren't willing to play within the playhouse that they've got. And unfortunately, when you go to something like Star Wars or even Marvel, like certain characters exist. There are interconnecting features, and you know you don't know what else is at play. And if you're not willing to play ball a little bit, I don't think it's going to work. The only thing that worries me about this is I'm like, why were they hired in the first place? Like, surely you'd like vet these things first. Like, why did they get this far before basically being fired? Like, this is the only problem. People keep being like, why is Kathleen Kennedy keep like hiring people and firing them? And I'm like, the only part that I agree with is like, yes, in essence, why do they keep hiring people and then finding trouble with them later? Even Chris Lord and Miller, right? Why did they get so far and then start clashing heads on Solo before they like were like, well, we want to do the vision of our movie, and then they got kicked off because they weren't willing to play ball either. You know, vet people that are either going to work or not work. Like Kathleen Kennedy says that making Episode 8 was one of the greatest filmmaking experiences of her life because she reckoned that Rian Johnson was so easy to work with and understanding. And Rian Johnson always says that he got to make the movie he always wanted to make, and he got a lot of freedom, and yet he managed to make the movie he wanted, but still play and please everyone there. So it's apparently not impossible to do.
Ciaran?
I think they got named as directors for it prior to the final season or two of Game of Thrones.
We didn't know if they were directing. We
didn't know if they were directing, but we knew that they were going to be involved prior to that. And I feel like for them especially, the last season of Game of Thrones and the backlash they would have received from it probably would have changed their mindset for this going into this after it. Because especially if, you know, hearing the rumors that they rushed the last season of Game of Thrones so they could get to Star Wars is, you know, that's bad enough as it is. And the fact that, you know, they're not doing Star Wars anymore, which means Game of Thrones could have been better. But also maybe Star Wars have looked at, you know, Star Wars and Disney have looked at that ending of Game of Thrones, looked how they dealt with it, looked at the audience backlash of it a little bit, and went, yeah, we're going to sit down and talk to them and see what's the go, and maybe we're a bit more apprehensive going into the meetings with them again.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think everybody was happy for it to end. It sounds like they get to go over to Netflix and do whatever they want and get that $250 million. And then Kathleen Kennedy can do whatever she thinks is best for the Star Wars franchise. I think it's interesting that they were willing to do a story about the origins of the Jedi, and that might be something they will be exploring in the future. Is that something you want explained or you don't want touched on, Dylan, as the massive Star Wars fan and host of Alderaan Explosion, the countdown to the Rise of Skywalker?
I don't really care either way. I mean, the origin of the Jedi is not something. It's like what? That's what I'm saying. Like it's like Adam and Eve shit, isn't it? What's the first person who used the Force? I guess. Like, is that interesting? Maybe. I'm not fussed about seeing that as a story, personally.
I mean, it could be cool.
For me, it was when they mentioned Old Republic. Like, Old Republic is like something that really excites me, and I want that to be handled correctly by the right people and given the time that it needs to breathe.
Yeah.
Like, I given the time to develop itself and to be a well-established and well-rounded set of movies, rather than, not given that time to do it, or not given the right people to helm that project.
Okay, so we've got these Star Wars dates locked in for a few years' time for this next trilogy of films. Do we think they're actually going to happen?
I don't believe they're going to hold on to those dates. How many years is it until the first date?
2021.
Yeah.
2021? That's what? 2 and a bit years, technically?
Yeah.
Is this year's already over? But you would guess they would aim for the end of 2021.
Yeah, it's all December's, so.
Yeah, so 3 years. I don't know if they're going to get to it in 3 years. I could see 2022.
No, but then they'll clash with Avatar.
Well, yeah.
Dylan, do you think we're going to get Star Wars in 2021?
Yes. I really think that they'll just take a year breather. Disney Plus will do its thing, but they're not going to take 10 years or something ridiculous in between movies again. Like,
Who do you think it will be? Is the Rian Johnson project going to be fast tracked, and that's what they're going to try and get in 2021, or they're going to find somebody else?
Well, considering that apparently the Benioff and Weiss shit was supposed to be before that, then I guess like.
Well, we don't know. we just
that's what the rumors were. The rumors were they were supposed to be first, and Rian Johnson was going to be way later. But it's like, unless they suddenly start working out what happens next, then I guess Rian Johnson gets pushed up. But everyone keeps asking him in interviews. Like most recently, he was being asked for like impressed for Knives Out, and he's still like, yeah, I'm still involved, but like I'm just I might do another movie first. Depends how I feel. And then, like, people ask him, like, how he feels about Star Wars fandom, and he's like, just block people. So he seems unwavered by the people out to hate on him and stuff. So
moving on to Game of Thrones news, the Game of Thrones prequel that was being produced by Jane Goldman and starring Naomi Watts has been cancelled. I think this was kind of a surprise to all of us because we knew for a fact they cut a pilot together, or shot a pilot, cut it, but apparently there was a lot of behind-the-scenes issues. Just couldn't seem to put it together, and I guess HBO decided to pull the plug, which very surprising that they're something reasonably far along. I mean, we were talking about it while Game of Thrones Season 8 was coming out. Yeah. We were even speculating we were going to get hints in Game of Thrones towards the prequel. Which
do you have that other piece of news though to tie?
But then, same day, just to halt the blow, they announced Game of Thrones House of the Dragon is coming in its place, which will follow the Targaryens centuries before the events of the original series. Pretty much talking about the early days of them conquering Westeros. And that's been sent straight to series. They're not going to do a pilot. They're just going to shoot the 10 episodes.
I think that's an important thing about this news story is to point out that they literally they shot a pilot. They didn't order a series. They shot a pilot. They had like lots of people on board. That it sounded really good, and then they've cancelled that, and then they've not ordered a pilot, but ordered a series straight away for this other show that we don't know anything about. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, how bad is that other show that they're like, fuck, we need Game of Thrones back fast. Just quick. That one's shit. Green light. This one will do. Yeah. So weird. I would have, my opinion on this is I would have preferred the one that was cancelled over the one that they added, in my opinion. Like, Targaryen stuff, whatever. Early, like, way before Game of Thrones is set, like, the First People, like, era type, like, what's going on there. That sounded way more interesting to me. More Targaryen shit running around, fire and breath, whatever.
Durgans, man. We need more Durgans to sell merchandise and to sell a series with Durgans.
Basically. Yeah.
You're trying to say dragons.
Durgans, man.
I mean, the saving grace is this Miguel Sapochnik, the director who did some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones. is a showrunner on the show. So at least it'll look pretty. But yeah, I think they would have preferred to have both and have like maybe them trading off year to year like Game of Thrones / Westworld were doing for a little bit there. But yeah, it feels like it was just a thing announced to soften the blow. It could have been well in the works. It could have been like they were going to announce it as part of the HBO Max thing. But it coincided with them announcing they decided to pull the plug on the other one. So the other thing that has been pointed out is the cancelled series was going to be a lot more diverse with a lot of different people of different ethnicities, but this one is going to be focused on the Targaryens, who, if you don't know, super white. Just putting it out there.
Fucking hell.
And it was being headed up by a woman,
That too.
Jane Goldman.
Who's done a lot of good stuff. Kick-Ass, other thing, Kingsman, I think, as well,
Yeah.
she was involved in. So,
yeah.
Very sad. Game of Thrones is dead. Long live Game of Thrones. So, HBO had a massive, Warner's had a massive live stream sort of thing where they announced everything about HBO Max. It's going to be coming to America in May 2020. And apparently the plan is for 10 million current HBO subscribers to have a frictionless opportunity to sign up and get HBO Max immediately on day one. Most important thing for us, I think, in here is the plan is for it to be released worldwide within the next 3 years, which is good because they've got a lot of content, and I'm sure we're going to want to watch it. I'm going to talk about some of the different things they announced in a second. They did announce the price at $14.99 a month US, which makes it the highest streaming service out there compared to Netflix's $12.99, Amazon Prime's $12.99, and Disney Plus's $6.99. How do you feel about that date? How do you feel about that time frame? Does it get you excited about HBO Max? Could it become to Australia and pretty much just take all Foxtel's content?
This shit is never coming to Australia because I'm pretty sure the last time HBO signed the Game of Thrones like HBO partnership, it was like fucking a several year thing, and that was only a couple of years ago. So I don't know when this ends up in Australia. I don't know how it ends up working, but some of the shows they announced that would still be a couple of years away, presumably. I'm intrigued in, like obviously the Green Lantern thing. If you want to,
Yep, we'll get to that in a sec.
But like that intrigues me. But like otherwise, HBO has had their streaming service, not HBO Max, but HBO has had a streaming service in America for what, like a year and a half now, or whatever it is. We still don't have that. We have Foxtel. When HBO Max comes out, was it March, May, whatever it is, it won't launch here. I don't think it'll be out here until at the earliest, like 2021, 2022. I'd be highly surprised if this comes here next year at all.
Yeah.
And $15 would be like, what, 20 fucking Australian dollars?
Yeah, at least.
Get fucked.
Even higher,
No.
probably.
No.
Ciaran, does this intrigue you at all?
I don't see it coming here.
I mean,
Like, I just don't.
I mean, it'll get here eventually.
Eventually, but like, has HBO's current stuff has never got here.
HBO
like, their
stuff's all
current-
on Foxtel.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, the HBO service that they have in America and elsewhere just has never got here. Which just, yeah, I wish that service was a thing here.
But this has the full weight of Warner Brothers behind it, so...
Yeah. I just think Foxtel's almost too valuable in the Australian market in its current form.
The truth of the matter is if HBO Max comes to Australia, Foxtel dies, basically. Apart from sports.
Or needs to very much restructure.
Yeah. It would need to really, really
yeah.
restructure, and it would lose a lot of money, and it would have to go down to like a $10 a month like subscription thing for basically sports only. Because other than sports, the main reason people subscribe to that, the reason I subscribe to it is basically to access HBO shows. That is it. That is why I basically pay the money. All right. The only reason I turn on my Foxtel at the moment is to watch Watchmen, which just want to quickly say, by again, we talked about the first episode, obviously. Second episode, third episode, Fuck, that show is good. That is currently top winner. That show is so fucking good. I want to get it. Every episode I want to watch. If I don't say Watchmen's fucking great, that show is fucking great. That's why I watch. That's why I'm watching Foxtel.
All right. Quick. Yeah, Watchmen. It's good. Touch on 2 series they announced. They announced that they're going to be working on a Green Lantern TV series, being headed up by Greg Berlanti, who, fun fact, wrote the script for Green Lantern, the movie from 2011, starring Ryan Reynolds.
No.
To be fair, it was very much rewritten several times after. Like, right before, he was set to direct and then got replaced for whatever reason right before shooting. And I can't remember who. Martin Campbell, I'm pretty sure, came in and shot the film.
I'll tell you in a second. Martin Campbell's correct.
Martin Campbell is correct.
There is also a total of 4 people attached to the screenplay name and 3 people attached to screen story. So,
yeah, I believe the rewriter came in and completely did a bunch of stuff.
So, does this have any connection to the Arrowverse or anything like that, or is this
no word yet?
Or is this one of those shows where they're like almost how Supergirl originally was, where it was like, this isn't going to be connected at all?
I think it's more like what they're currently doing with Doom Patrol and Titans, where it's kind of
cool.
They're leaving it open. I mean, there's infinite worlds, so potentially there's always the potential for a crossover in the future. But they're pretty much very self-contained. But I think this is great. Obviously, if you don't know, the Green Lantern, introduced in 1940, he begins as an ordinary Earthling who was given a piece of extraterrestrial technology known as a power ring from a dying alien. The power ring is fueled by willpower, allowing its user to conjure anything and everything their imagination can pull together, and then is recruited into the Green Lantern Corps, a massive group of warriors who patrol the universe fighting bad guys and frequently teaming up to save the galaxy. It's pretty much Space Cops, and I think TV is probably the best medium for this. I mean, if they wanted, they could just do a procedural. I mean,
the Green Lantern movie is so bad I fell asleep. I've never actually watched all of it. I consider it the worst
coming
superhero
soon
movie.
To what do you want to watch?
I've legit never watched it all. I tried to watch it once and I fell asleep, and I woke up near the end somewhere, and then I was like, cool, giant fucking monster thing.
Great cast.
The movie's terrible for lots of reasons. Also, it's terrible. One of the reasons it's terrible is because it had too much money, so they decided to CGI the entire suit, including the mask.
I mean,
for some reason. So at least
they
with
did
this
it before.
TV show,
it was cool.
Yeah, well, at least with that TV show, they'll have to give him a costume.
Yes,
and use that properly. All the things. I'm down for a good Green Lantern thing. I like some Green Lantern. I think some Green Lantern comics I read are bad. There's certain runs that I'm really into. Other runs I get really bored. So it just depends what they do and what Green Lanterns they use. Like, is it just the Green Lanterns? Do they bring in the Red Lanterns, the Pink Lanterns?
I'm pretty sure they'll do the
all
whole.
This sort of shit. Like, you're gonna do the whole thing.
The whole spectrum, I feel like, is pretty much canon now. So I would be shocked if that wasn't included. So. Unless they want to start off small and like sort of bank it sort of Earth-based.
Is this show like allowed to be violent because it's on HBO Max? Like, do we get an M-rated Green Lantern? Does it have to be super kiddie?
Yet. I mean, maybe they'll do the lady in the fridge, because obviously they've got a whole bunch of different Green Lanterns they can pick. You got Hal Jordan, Kyle Rayner.
So is it confirmed that it's Hal? Because I
No.
kind of wish it was
All
Hal.
it said is it's coming. That's it.
I'd kind of wish it was about Kyle and just have Hal as this legendary Earth Green Lantern that's just off the grid at the moment, and I'd just have Kyle discovering everything. Kyle, or we go right out of left wing and we do Guy Gardner.
I feel like it's going to be a combination. I feel like it's not going to be just one guy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a group. So.
Well, I don't know. I feel like you have to build it around one of them. I don't know how I'd feel about there being...
It might be like a supporting cast.
I feel like if he was going to do multiple, why when you call it Green Lanterns instead of Green Lantern?
I feel like it's going to
they
be
can
around
add
one of them.
core whenever they want to add core.
I want them to spend more time with the Green Lantern Corps itself. Like, that was my biggest frustration with the movie, was just kind of they went to Oa? Not Oa.
Yeah,
Oa.
Oa.
It It is Oa, yeah. Okay, Oa. They went to Oa for like a total of maybe 5-10 minutes, and then left. And I was like, I wanted more Kilowog. I wanted more members of the actual Green Lantern Corps in it. So hopefully this can explore that a lot more.
Cool. Then the other big series they announced was Strange Adventures, which is set to be an anthology series based on the comics and featuring characters from DC canon. So potentially we could have characters like Animal Man, Captain Comic, Adam Strange, or the Enchantress showing up on Strange Adventures. This has potential to be really cool, or it has the potential to be kind of
You just
shitty.
described any TV show.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I feel like it could be cool to do like small looks at different characters and like getting small glimpses of different characters, but then you feel like it could just be 8 origin stories for the first season, and then is that going to be really interesting? You're like introducing a different hero each time.
I don't mind these sorts of things when they're done in comics because it just suits the medium better.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of when they do them for TV shows like this because it just seems like a lot of money and time invested, and then you're like, I really enjoyed that, I want more, but then you watch the next episode and it's a different character. You're like, this one's shit. Like, yeah, it's just
And it's like, damn, I have to wait another year for them maybe doing the people that I liked again.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, obviously none of these characters would potentially hold their own show, you could argue, or not to the scale that they're probably going to try and make this. So, I mean, it's good from that sense. And who knows, if there could be like a breakout character that they're able to spin off and do their own series on it later. So, I mean, maybe it's just like a testing ground for certain things, but I mean, they've only got so many characters they could potentially pull from because they're not going to be doing the big name people. It's going to be smaller C-list.
You told me
D-list
Kite
guys.
Man couldn't hold his own series.
Kite Man could totally do it.
I mean,
You know?
maybe. Yeah, so HBO announced pretty much everything that's coming to them. The streaming service, it's a lot, so I'm not going to touch on everything. I will say things that interested me on this list. They're doing DMZ, which is a comic series I really enjoy, being directed and executive produced by Ava DuVernay, set in New York after an American Civil War. It seems like they're going to be diverting from the comic series, which focused on like a photojournalist who sort of drops into the DMZ, and it's going to be more on. I think it's going to be one of the side characters who is a female medic who sort of is living on the island trying to keep everybody alive and keep everybody happy, but is also looking for a lost son. So that has potential to be pretty interesting. They're also doing Americana, which is apparently based on a Chimada Nzong. It's based on a book and is a romance that also deals with identity, and is being written by Dana Gurrai from Black Panther, and is starring Lupita Nyong'o from Black Panther. And
Good job.
yep, so that could be cool. Apparently they're doing Dune: The Sisterhood, which is going to be a spin-off of the Dune movies coming up. Has got Denis Villeneuve involved. That could be really cool if the Dune movie is really good. Genlock, I think season 2 is going to be on HBO Max.
It's a week before.
Okay, that's
I think
not
it's
as
only
bad.
A week. No, I think it's only. I was reading it's only a week in advance
Of its release on first.
of Rooster Teeth first. It's not too bad.
Yeah, but I saw a couple of people getting a bit upset, but you know.
Yeah, get over it. It's what Rooster Teeth needs. I was really worried about. I was really worried about Genlock season 2 happening, but all of the famous voice actors dropping off this project. Like that was my major thing. Like I was worried that Michael B. Jordan was going to drop off, that Dakota Fanning would drop off, that Maisie Williams would drop off and stuff, and they just replaced them with different voice actors. So I think this is good because it keeps people around, which is really nice.
Yeah. Hang on. They're doing a
Also watch Sherlock.
Yeah. They're doing a Gossip Girl sequel. that after 8 years after the original website went dark, a new generation of New York private school teens are introduced to the social surveillance of Gossip Girl. The prestige series will address how much social media and the landscape of New York itself has changed in the intervening years. So, something.
I saw a meme today that was like, what, when you were born, when you think GG is either Gossip Girl or Gilmore Girls, and there's me thinking, doesn't GG mean good game?
Yeah. If someone says GG, my first thought is going to be GG2Es or something like that.
Yeah.
They're also making Grease, Rydell High, a joyous musical series set in and around the world of Rydell High. The show reimagines a global smash hit movie with some characters you already know and a whole lot more you'll soon meet. It's still the 1950s, a world that rocks with the big musical numbers from the period combined with new original songs as well. It's the peer pressures of high school, the horrors of puberty, and the roller coaster of life in middle America with a modern sensibility that will bring it to life for today's musical lovers.
Yes, we're going to finally find out if Grease 2 is canon. Yeah!
I mean, how do they not call it Grease the TV show Electric Boogaloo? It seems like a missed opportunity.
Grease all lubed up.
So the producer of Jessica Jones, Mr. Rosenberg, is doing a TV series called Rules of Magic, which is a prequel to the 1998 movie Practical Magic, which was itself based on a book by Alice Hoffman, which is set in the 1960s New York. The series follows three troubled siblings, Franny, Jet, and Vincent Owens, who wrestle with the abnormalities that have kept them isolated, but the tumultuous times unearth the extraordinary discovery that they are, in fact, descendants of a bloodline of witches. The two sisters will become the revered and somewhat feared aunts in Practical Magic, while the brother will leave an unexpected legacy. So, all the people looking for a Practical Magic prequel, it's coming. And then the
Just
only
what I was looking for.
Yeah. And then touch on this last one. Michael Mann is executive producing a series and directing the pilot of a series starring Ansel Elgort called Tokyo Vice, based on Jake Adelstein's non-fiction book Tokyo Vice. It follows Ansel Elgort's Adelston, the only American journalist ever to have been admitted to the insular Tokyo Metropolitan Police Press Club, where for 12 years he covered the dark side of Japan, extortion, murder, human trafficking, physical corruption, and of course the accuser. But when his final scoop exposed a scandal that reverberated all the way from the neon-soaked streets of Tokyo to the polished halls of the FBI and resulted in a death threat for him and his family, Adelstein decided to step down, and then he fought back. In Tokyo Vice, he delivers an unprecedented look at Japanese culture and a searing memoir about his rise from cub reporter to seasoned journalist with a price on his head.
I buy it.
Does he, at the end of it, does he become the Vice King? As a clear sequel to Tokyo Drift, where the main character becomes the Drift King. I'll see you guys in another 12 months for an episode.
So I want to quickly touch on the Actor Awards, the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Awards. Big winners, or big most nominated show was Lamb of God, which was a limited series on Foxtel. And then the leading film, this nomination-wise, is Jennifer Kent's The Nightingale, which picked up 15 different nods. The nominees for the best film this year are The Nightingale, Hotel Mumbai, The King, Judy and Punch, Ride Like a Girl, and Top End Wedding. But really, it looks like it's going to be one of The Nightingale, which got 15 nominations, Hotel Mumbai, and The King, which received 13 nominations, and Judy and Punch, which received 9 nominations. So
Is the King considered Australian?
It is considered Australian. It was shot by an Australian. I'm assuming the certain amount of Australian money. I'm assuming a certain amount of behind the scenes production, and it's got to be produced by Australians and that kind of thing. So,
yeah, it says countries of origin: United Kingdom, Hungary, and Australia. So Okay.
It qualifies. That means Timothée Chalamet is up for Best Actor in a feature. That's cool. I guess there's a lot of international people. It seems a bit weird for Australian awards, but I want to point out it's a big year for Damon Herriman, who's been recorded first person to get 4 nominations across performance categories for his work in Judy and Punch and The Nightingale, as well as in TV dramas Mr. In Between and Lamb of Gods, on top of him playing Charles Manson in both Mindhunter and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So, huge year for him. And then, interestingly, this year, they've introduced the Best Online Entertainment category, which will see Aussie Man Reviews go up against How To Basic, Georgia Productions, CKN Toys, Wenji, Bounce Patrol, and Primitive Technology for the actor. Which, cool. I'm surprised some of these are Australian. I didn't realize that. Well, I knew Aussie Man was Australian. I didn't know How To Basic.
I was going to say, do you know Aussie Man?
I didn't realize Primitive Technology is an Australian thing. So that's pretty cool.
But you just remind me, I've got to give a shout out to the YouTube series that went up like a month ago, Australia's Best Street Racer, which was funded by this Tasmanian film, whatever it's called, and was shot in Launceston primarily. And it's about this teenage kid trying to be the best street racer, and he pretty much goes around the Launceston blocky route. And I had a great time watching it, just going, I know where that is. I know where that is. I know where that is. But yeah, it's I think it's like 8, 3 to 5 minute episodes. They're all on YouTube. If you type in Australia's Best Street Racer, and I suggest giving them a look. You just reminded me.
Cool.
That should be nominated and beat Aussie Man Reviews.
No,
maybe
it shouldn't.
It didn't.
He's a national treasure.
He is a national treasure and a Brisbane Lion fan, so he's pretty great. Surprising news: the well-funded series, The Legends of Vox Machina, is found a streaming home. It's going to be on Amazon Prime next year when it launches.
Just because you fucked it up so bad, it's The Legend of Vox Machina.
That's what I said. Vox Machina. It was initially funded, obviously, for 10 episodes, but now apparently there's going to be 24 episodes across 2 seasons. I think that's fantastic. I mean, at least we know where it's going to be shown. They have confirmed that they're going to still be able to be viewed by people who funded the project, instead of them having to get Amazon Prime, which I think was pretty much a given, knowing the people involved. But Ciaran, you're a Critical Role fan. Is this a good news for you?
I'm so excited because it means that we're going to have a way of being able to watch it in Australia.
Legally.
That's my biggest thing, is that I was always worried that it was going to go on some service that was just not accessible here, and I was going to cry. But that makes me really excited. It's kind of weird, though, because they raised $13 million via Kickstarter for that series for the first 10 episodes. So Yep. It's like, okay, where does this come in now with Amazon? I don't know. It feels weird, but it's okay. It's good.
Well, I guess Amazon is paying kind of for a 14-episode run, and then...
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's cool. I mean, at least we know...
That's cool. It's more support.
We know for sure we're getting 24 episodes. Yeah, it's way more than we thought. Initially, they wanted just, a pilot or a couple of episodes, as proof of concept.
And if you wanted 2 or 3 episodes tops for it, they smashed those goals. Getting 24 episodes is huge. All of the cast, and they're very heavily embedded in the voice actors community. So I'm sure this is going to be good opportunities for a lot of voice actors in their field. And I think Critical Role as a whole, if you haven't kept an eye on Critical Role, they have expanded not just from this one great D&D game to becoming a very, very good studio for a variety of different content. They're currently releasing a series called Undeadwood, which is a tabletop role-playing game. It's only a short form. I think it's 4 or 5 parts that is featured in the world of Deadwood. That is really fucking cool. So,
wait,
the
actual Deadwood?
Should go check it.
Like the TV series?
Yeah,
Deadwood?
actual Deadwood. Like the TV series Deadwood, yeah.
Bonkers. Dylan, how do you feel about this?
Great news. I was out with my friend Sam the other day. I had to hear all about this and Undeadwood and all this stuff. And by the way, it's 4 episodes, Ciaran. Okay, like in case you don't know, I had to hear all this stuff.
I said 4 or 5.
It could change. But yeah, that's cool. And then we're going to end up on this last segment, I guess, new recurring segment. Batman update. There's been 3 new actors rumored to be coming onto Matt Reeves' The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson. We have Andy Serkis as Alfred. Thoughts?
I was really confused when they announced 2 actors together, and Andy Serkis was the one named as Alfred. Not because the person, announced alongside would have played Alfred, but I was like...
To be fair, no one's announced, just to clarify.
This is rumored.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rumored.
But
okay.
they've been pretty close, except for Jonah Hill.
But I was like, oh, so these are both playing villains, and then Andy Serkis is playing Alfred. I'm like, huh, okay, sure. I'm in. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
If it's true.
That feels like inspired casting. And obviously, he's got a long history with Matt Reeves, so I feel like he was going to shoe him in somewhere. It might as well be the cool butler. And then we have Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
That's so weird.
I mean, I don't think it is when we see the newer iterations. Like, obviously on Gotham, they had a different take. In Batman, Telltale's Batman, they had a very different take as well of the Penguin. I feel like fat mafia boss is not
Telltale's Batman.
Yeah, fat mafia boss is not that interesting and unique anymore. So
no, I like that. Okay, if he's playing that Telltale's Batman character or a style like that one, sure, I'd be in for that.
And then we have rumored Matthew McConaughey as Two-Face, or at least Harvey Dent.
All right.
All right. Let me just flip this coin. Ooh.
Oh god.
Heads. Terrible.
Like shirtless for like no reason in the entire movie, or
that's what he's tossing the coin for.
This is the worst rumored casting of the whole thing, in my opinion.
Really? I think
because Two-Face, like Penguin, the Colin Farrell thing, everyone's like trying to think of him as like a short, fat, like how he is in the comics. Yep. Whereas I think obviously they'd just change that up and they would keep, like, just look at Gotham for an example of like how you can kind of keep the Penguin, but like change up the Penguin and make it like more realistic kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you make him like more of just a gangster dude who's got like some sort of issues, obviously, and whatever else. Wears his fucking top hat. I don't know. But with the Two-Face, it's like that's the character that even when Dark Knight did it, it's like he's Two-Face. Like he is. Like you have to do that semi-realistically, and I don't want to see. I can't picture Matthew McConaughey like trying to do the Harvey Dent Two-Face thing without it being funny. That's why I can't picture it.
That's a fair criticism, but yeah, I don't know. I think this cast looks stacked at this point. Like the only worry is how do you fit them all in the one film. So, but you Matt Reeves, we trust.
Well, my last thing would be that I don't think Colin Farrell is a big enough actor that for most people, average cinema goer, that if he pops up for a 5-minute scene, that people are going to be like, oh, that was such a waste. Like, would be like, oh, that was Colin Farrell. That's weird. He's only in it for 5 minutes. But to the average people, it's not Tom Cruise popping up for 5 minutes where it's going to be like weird to see such a big actor pop up for a short period of time. Like, he's a big actor, but for mainstream audiences, he's not like noticeably that was weird that he was in it for such a small amount of time big. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can get that. All right, let's move into what did we end up watching? Ciaran, what did we end up watching?
We ended up watching the 1994 Pagemaster.
20th Century Fox presents Macaulay Culkin as you've never seen him before.
Look at this place!
On a fantastic journey into a land of endless wonders where he'll scale the heights of the world's greatest adventures.
Moby Dick! LCP Treasure Island!
Happy birthday! And bring back the ultimate prize.
You've got to fight to make a wish come true.
That's it, boy!
His own courage.
Yes!
It's only one Pagemaster. I feel like it was very confusing why I picked this movie.
Yeah, so The Pagemaster, directed by Joe Johnston and Pixot Hunts, starring Macaulay Culkin and Christopher Lloyd, with voices provided by Whoopi Goldberg, Patrick Stewart, Frank Welker, animated by Turner Feature Animation, that tells the story of a cowardly boy who buries himself in accident statistics, enters a library to escape a storm, only to be transformed into an animated illustration for the Pagemaster. He has to work through the obstacles from classic books to return to real life. Had a budget of $34 million, made $13.7 million. Has a rating on Rotten Tomatoes of 21% and a 6.1 on IMDb. And it was one of only 2 films made by Turner Feature Animation before they pretty much sold themselves to Warner Brothers. So, Ciaran, why'd you pick this movie?
It was one of my favorite movies growing up. And when I saw it on Netflix the other day, I couldn't remember why it was one of my favorite movies growing up. So I was like, fuck it, let's watch it and see if it was good or really bad. And it was okay. It was, Macaulay Culkin was Macaulay Culkin. I remember being really scared at points when I was a kid. Like, there was some stuff that really messed with me. But it wasn't terrible. I think I've ruined it for myself because I don't want to watch it ever again.
Dylan, did you watch Pagemaster as a kid?
I never seen of or heard of this movie until Ciaran brought it up, and I kept typing in the wrong thing to Netflix, and I had to relook in our Slack and be like, "What the fuck was I looking for again?" And I typed
What were you searching?
I think I was putting space there, like being grammar correct or something. I
Space
don't know,
Master.
but no, Pagemaster with a space, but it's like Pagemaster's one word for
I
some
would have
reason.
thought if you looked up Page, you would have found it straight away.
Apparently not. No, I'd never even heard of this movie. I was like, a Macaulay Culkin movie I'd never even heard of. And it came out in like 1994, was it? Right?
Yep.
So you would have thought it, it was something that I would have, could have watched when I was a kid, for sure, yeah. But for some reason, I'd never heard of and seen it before. I'd say that was okay. I'm trying to judge it. Obviously, it's very dated. And I was trying to kind of view it as would I have enjoyed this when I was younger type thing? And I'm honestly not sure, because I think the problem with the movie is that the animation style just isn't very exciting. And that's kind of where I'm if I was a kid, would I find this movie fun? And I'm going to go with no, because I just don't think the animation style is as fun as other animated things I was watching when I was a kid. Other competing things. The age I was when this came, when I would have been old enough to watch this and understand this, I had other movies fucking, not even Pixar shit, but just straight up, I had Small Soldiers, which was one of my favorite,
But that's different.
It was making me think of it. It was a weird combination, and this movie combines both, sort of. Not at the same time, but it does at one stage.
But Small Soldiers was never straight up animation,
I guess. But then I'm this has live action in it as well. It's the movie starts live action. He goes into. Do we mention this? The movie starts live action.
Yep.
He goes into his library. Then he gets brought into the animated section, and then the movie ends obviously with
Illustrated
live action
section.
again. Yeah, illustrated.
He's
That's why
the
it's,
Pagemaster is very clear. He's not a cartoon. It's an illustration.
He's in a book. Now,
which makes me okay with the art style, because I'm that looks like an illustration from a book back then, an older book.
yeah, I think the reason the movie would have failed is because I just don't think it's very compared to what else was out at the time, your Pixar shit and whatever else. I just don't think it would have been exciting for a kid.
Well, 1994, there was no Pixar.
No. Well, all right. So I was thinking
you're thinking of
1999,
when you
2000.
were.
I'm thinking when I would have been old enough to watch this, not release date, is what I was trying to compare it
Yes.
to.
Okay.
If that, yeah. Because I wasn't 1994. I'm not watching this. I'm fucking 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember watching this as a kid. I remember liking it at the time. It's not great going back. It's one of those things that should have been left to the memory. As much as we want to defend the animation, it's not good. It's not a good looking style of animation. I don't think. I mean, that's it's dated, I think. Obviously, Turner Feature Animation spun out of Hanna-Barbera, and you can sort of see that art style leaning into it. It's got that kind of like hard lines and that kind of thing of the characters, and just Macaulay Culkin's face looks weird in the film. This is animated person. But yeah, there's some fun bits. Obviously, the books are all cool and fun. They use old classic books, so like they're not under licensing anymore, so they can get away with it.
Yeah, the thing that I was going to say is really cool about the movie, I thought, was just how they combine all the book aspects. So it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde's like one of the villains at the horror section, and then like you can spot the books. Like lots of books have the names written on them. Like I spotted like The Shining and some other things like written on the books. So they had like all these things that obviously kids wouldn't spot. At one stage, he picks up the Hounds of Baskerville, and a hound from Baskerville literally launches out of it. So there's lots of references to stuff that kids wouldn't get, but at least when I was watching it now, I was like, oh, that's cool how they built this book world thing. Also, a movie like this wouldn't get made today because kids don't read anymore. So,
I mean, to be fair, there was no kids reading then either. So, and they didn't have any other options. That library was empty. That's a freaking big ass library.
Big
and
ass.
There's nobody in there.
It's true. Just Christopher Lloyd fucking being a creepy librarian.
Also, can I say the layout of that library really frustrated me? Because they were like, you go this way. He was like, giving him directions. He's like, go this way, you go to the fiction section. As he was walking down the first aisle of, like, bookcases, one of them had a sign for fiction. So I'm like, does this library have, like, multiple locations for fiction or something? Or
yeah, multiple aisles.
Fuck?
Multiple aisles of fiction.
Yeah, you need a lot of them. Also, spoilers, I guess, whatever. He escapes and he takes the 3 books. I enjoy that they're called Horror, Adventure, and Fantasy. That's the title of the books. So somebody's written a book and has gotten really lazy and calls it Horror. That's the title of the book.
Horror, fantasy. You know what? I still teared up at the end. I was like, this is so beautiful. And he's in the treehouse and they're talking over him, and it's like... Also, I will say, watching the opening credits of this fucking movie, not watching this since I was a kid, there were some actors' names popped up that I was like, holy fuck, what? You were in this movie? Like, I think Leonard Nimoy does, like, the voice of Dr. Jekyll, I think?
Yeah, he does Jekyll, Dr. Hyde.
And I had, like, no idea Patrick Stewart was in this movie. I knew Whoopi Goldberg, because
she's recognisable.
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg was really recognisable. The pirate, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that was Patrick Stewart. But just, he didn't sound like himself, but... no, I had an okay time. I've ruined the childhood memory.
Yeah, I would not show this to my little brother because he wouldn't sit through it.
No, I think kids would get bored watching this these days. I just don't think it would excite or interest them at all.
So yeah, what a down note to end this episode on. But thank you very much for listening. Ciaran, where can people find you for the next 12 months on the internet?
On the next 12 months, you can find me on Twitter at your boy Ringo. Tell me how you enjoyed the Pagemaster and what childhood movie you've watched and you've ruined for yourself as well.
Dylan, where can people find you on Twitter and on Trakt?
You find me on all those things at Vivaladil, Vivaladil.
And you can find me there at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEYHOBLEY. You can follow the Explosion Network, which this is a part of, at Explosion Pod on Twitter. You can go to youtube.com/Explosion Network, check it out, review discussions, various different things. You can find the last episode that Ciaran was on, episode 21 of What Do You Want to Watch? Just keep adding to that number. Or go to explosionnetwork.com. You can read all Dylan's reviews of all the Apple TV Plus content, and you can find this podcast and all the other awesome podcasts we do, including Alderaan Explosion, which we mentioned before, which will get you your Star Wars fix. And I think we're going to announce here again, we're going to be doing another after show coming up, The Mandalorian. Great title.
Wait, this is the second podcast I've had to sit through this shit. Are you kidding? Oh, fuck me.
If you want to let us know how great a title that is, send us an email at mail@explosionnetwork.com, or just leave us a review if you want to help us out, either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or just tweet stuff out. We want to see all your bad childhood movies that you shouldn't have revisited, or just tell your friends about Pagemaster and how we discussed it here and it ruined Ciaran's childhood retroactively. That's how this works, right?
Yep, I did it.
All right.
It's fine.
Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Every Saturday, listen to a brand new episode of Arcade Couch, the Explosion Network's variety video game podcast. Sit back, relax on the best couch to chill with your friends and hear about the latest industry news, as well as our opinions on the latest releases and what we've been playing. Just search your podcasting app for Arcade Couch and subscribe for free now. Like now. Do it.
Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Except if it's like your old childhood movies, don't watch it.
Well, unless it's bad. I would happily
never
rewatch.
know.
I'd happily rewatch The Mountie Ducks. That's still a good movie.
The Mountie Ducks?
Mighty
Is it
Ducks.
different from the Mighty Ducks?
That's what he said.
Is that like the Canadian
He legit
version?
said it. The Mountie
Yeah.
Ducks.